Since I started my self-development journey, I've been reading a lot of books, listening to a lot of podcasts, and consuming a lot of content about how I can really change my behavior. There are bad habits that I don't like, or there are good habits that I want to emphasize. There are behaviors or ways I react that are not always desirable for me and the people that I love. To understand why you do the things you do, to understand your behaviors, and to understand your habits, we need to dig a lot deeper. Actually put your identity under the microscope and really figure out who you are. And my solution to this problem of going deeper and trying to really figure out who you are is what I call the behavioral change cycle. This change cycle is super simple. It has three elements of intention, action, and reflection. And if you understand this, you understand how you can change your life. And if you give it enough time and you try hard enough, you will be able to truly achieve anything you want. Start that business. You will be able to build that body. You will be able to have that girlfriend that you've always wanted. And for the rest of this video, I'm going to be explaining these with detailed examples for you so you understand how your intentions, your actions, and the reflection that you do on those actions actually change your behaviors over time and the outcomes and the results that you're actually really after. So let's talk about it. So to understand true behavior change, we have to understand what is a behavior. A behavior is always a desire of change of state. And every behavior produces multiple outcomes over time. And there are immediate and ultimate rewards and consequences to your behaviors. What we need to understand is that it is always extremely difficult to understand the consequences or the reward that we're ultimately going to get from our behaviors. But to make matters worse, your internal state of your body, mind, and emotions also affect your behaviors. And most of the times, these factors affect it in a way that you are not even conscious of. You don't even know why you're doing the things that you're doing. So simply put, your internal state of your body, mind, and emotion actually affect your intentions around the action and the behavior that you are going to take. And when the intention changes, the action changes, and when the action changes, the ultimate outcome, reward, or the consequence of those actions change. Now, it is not just about how you feel and the intention. It is also actually about those actions and the quality of those actions. To understand actions better or why we do the things we do, we need to have a look at what even actions are. What are the things that we do? Your repeated actions are basically solutions to recurring problems. And a repeated action is a habit. The complete package of your repeated actions, aka your habits, actually dictate how you behave during your day 99.9% of the time, and they're really the embodiment of who you really are, your identity. But the first thing to understand is that change will never happen if you're only doing one or two of these three elements. They have to be all in alignment and sync. So for example, you will never be able to really change your behavior if there's a misconnection between your intentions and your actions. I've seen this all the time. I had this problem when I kept telling myself, hey, I want to get thin, I want to have a six-pack, I want to have the best body. Those are my intentions, right? But as soon as my internal body state changes, which would affect my intentions, I changed my actions. I actually started eating that chocolate bar, or I ordered McDonald's, or whatever. So what I'm trying to say is that the misconnection between my intentions and my actions was the reason that I, for example, did not manage to change that behavior. But there's a third element called the reflection as well. Now let's look at these in depth one by one. Element number one is intention, and this is really the why behind your action. Why do you do the things you do? And to really find out this why, we need to look at our core values. Your core values define your inherent decision-making ideals. Your values are your ethics, your core reasons of why you do the things you do. Values and how to find them will need its own full video, and it won't do it justice if I want to explain it to you here in depth. However, if you've noticed in my Second Brain videos or all of my videos, I always come back to this point of values, and it's actually one of the main first points that I use to define my life operating system, to define my second brain, because it really gives me that foundational reason why I want to do the things I want to do. I hope you understand the emphasis I'm trying to put on these values, because during the past 2 years, with all the books I've read, with all the podcasts I've listened to, it always comes back to the values. And if you have not defined your values, or you don't even know what they are, it is extremely difficult to understand your behavior, to try to change those behaviors, because those values are actually who you are. They're your identity. But to make things easier here, values are actually the most important things in areas of your life. So one of my values that I've meditated on for a long time to actually figure out is that I truly value friendships to such a core degree that I would then go above and beyond to make the people, my friends, happy. And this value actually affects my actions. If a friend is in need, I will go above and beyond to go and meet their expectations. Because of this core value, if my friend is, for example, not understanding me when I'm trying to explain something, I will spend more energy and try to re-explain it to him and make my actions in alignment with my values. So to simplify this point for you one more time, the intentions, the why behind your actions actually come from your values. So the only thing that you need to do in this step is to actually define those values. And I think I've given you a couple of examples here. And if you still are struggling with this, the only thing that you need to do is to make a piece of paper, write all the areas in your life, and based on those areas, just define values. Just define things that make you happier within the context of that area. This can be your relationship, this can be traveling, this can be family, or whatever else you want. And for those Notion geeks who actually watch this channel, you know my second brain setup. The first 2 steps are defining your areas and then your values. And based on those values, then we set ourselves goals, projects, tasks, and so on and so forth. So step number 2 is the actual action. Now that we understand the intention and the why behind it, we have to understand the what. The action defines what you're going to do given the context of that situation. Your actions and the what behind them are actually the decisions that you need to make reoccurringly on a daily basis. They define your focus, time, and the energy that you're going to spend on different tasks, on different things that you're going to do. And the quality of those decisions actually matters so much, because they define whether the action that you're going to do is a good action or a bad action. Is it bringing you fulfillment and happiness, or moving you closer to one of your goals in your life? Or no, it is actually moving you away from it. Another thing that you need to understand is that change, and especially behavioral change, is an extremely slow process, and it takes consistency and hard effort over time. I know with social media, Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so forth, we feel like people are constantly achieving new stuff, constantly changing and transforming from one state to another. But what you need to understand is that those are snapshots of people's lives. You don't know how much time that guy has spent on actually getting from point A to point B. You don't know the number of hard decisions that that person needed to take. You only see the results, and your mind and your brain immediately says, hey, I want that. I want that body. I want that girlfriend. I want that lifestyle. But if you really think about the values of the person behind the monitor, and think about the hard decisions they needed to take, the sacrifices they needed to make, and their intentions, so intentions and their actions, you might not even want that lifestyle. You might not even be ready to go through all of that process to get there. So the tip here is that small, consistent progress is what makes the biggest changes in your life, aka the compounding effect. There's a ton of books on this. There's a ton of stuff talking about small, consistent change. But really, at its core, it's not that complex. And my second tip for taking better actions is to take actions on something very small in a time-limited manner, sustainably over a long period of time. So for example, instead of going to the gym for your first week for 3 hours every session, go to the gym just 30 minutes. Or even if that is too much for you, just get dressed, pack your gym bag and go downstairs. Doing that a couple of times and committing to that tiny, sustainable action actually makes it a lot easier to stick to that habit, to stick to that good decision making and action over time. Now at this point, you might think, okay, we're done. Element 1, I know my intention. Element 2, I will take the good action. Great, if you've already figured this out, you pretty much figured out 50% of the way. And yes, only 50%, because the other biggest 50%, which I think 99% of people who are really going to do true behavioral change miss out, is reflection, is understanding and learning from your good or bad actions. What actually happens is that people can make good intentions and actions. However, as soon as life goes in a way that they're not expecting, as soon as that rainy day comes, their motivation, their intention, their actions are all out of the window. They don't want to go to the gym anymore. And maybe if they really can't change that external factor that is not letting them, for example, to go to the gym, they will fall off the wagon. And the reason for that is because they don't learn, they don't reflect as to, okay, this was an external reason that did not allow me to go, or this was an excuse that did not allow me to go to the gym. So the reflection section of this whole behavioral change cycle is actually the 50% of this whole thing. In my opinion, it carries a lot of weight, and I'm trying to emphasize that is because learning only happens when you reflect on the actions that you took, when you reflect on your decision making. And this learning can then re-emphasize and fix those values that were not really aligned with what you really wanted to do. And these learnings and your reflection can actually affect your intentions, your values, your actions, and the loop repeats. I hope you understand that. So this reflection and the learning from reflecting on your actions defines the how behind your actions. It optimizes the way you do things. So over time, you improve little and little, and then, and only then, the compounding effect really takes in place. So if your actions are the same and linearly increasing throughout time, you're not going to see that much difference. However, if you improve those actions by 1% every single time by reflecting and learning from the previous action, then over a few years, you're just going to see an exponential growth in whatever area you're working in, whether that's gym, whether that's making a YouTube channel, whether that's starting a business, or even your job or your relationship or whatever else. So to really emphasize on reflection again, this actually creates a feedback loop for you so that you can get information again based on the actions that you took and decide whether the action was a good action or a bad action. And this feedback loop increases the quality of your actions. And as I said in the previous section, the quality of your actions matters so much. Also, as I said, learning only happens when you're actually reflecting on the actions you took. And there is an actual good reason for this. When you are occupied doing something, so you're occupied focusing on what you're doing in the gym, your brain and its whole capacity is really focused on doing that one task. And we're actually, as humans, not really that good at multitasking. So when you're actually doing the thing, you're not actually learning. You're not actually creating those neural connections that are necessary to make that action again properly the correct way. However, when you go and reflect on it, then you can imagine what you did. You have something that you have right there and there, or what you call actively recalling what you just did. And then that is when you actually learn. That is when you actually create these neural connections. For example, if any of you have played musical instruments ever, you try to learn a pattern or you try to learn something on the piano and you see that you're just not getting it, but you keep trying and you're focused completely on doing it. Maybe you do it right a couple of times, but then you go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you try the same thing and it just works. It just works. Nothing has changed in your behavior. The only thing that's happened is that your mind actually subconsciously did the reflection stage. it reflected on what you did and actually made it better. So this is the fun part. You can reflect consciously and subconsciously. So muscle memory, for example, is reflection on a subconscious level. Or a conscious example could be when you think about your reaction, for example, when a colleague pissed you off, or the thing that you said to your girlfriend when you were angry. And this reflection will make you optimize your action the next time around, and maybe don't get angry at your colleague, or maybe talk a bit better with your girlfriend, or whatever else. And that's why I truly believe there is no other element. You are able to do all of these things, but these fundamental things that I'm telling you right now, such as intention, action, reflection, consistency, making better decisions, learning when you're reflecting and not when you're doing stuff, your core values and how they affect basically who you are, your identity, and basically 99% of your decision making. If you understand all of this, these fundamental building blocks, then you can shape the building, you can shape your life in any way that you want. And I hope that if you have been watching until this point, these points really hit home for you. And if you feel like you need more examples, if you feel like you need to understand this idea better, I am more than happy to make more videos about it. Just leave a comment down below. And if one person watching this, if you are actually doing this, I am actually above and beyond, because I have truly changed someone else's life. And that is something that I truly could not have done if I didn't have this channel, and I couldn't talk to you truly as who I am. So that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe. Share this video with someone that wants to change their life, that have been struggling quite a bit. And if you're also interested, as I said, my second brain system is built completely on these fundamental building blocks. So if you ever think you want to build your second brain or life operating system in Notion, I have a full series on that. Just check that out. But that's about it. Please let me know what you think, and catch you guys in the next video, guys. Cheers.